Hello, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder and CEO of the Bobby White Foundation.
And I'm Bonni Snyder, your co-host.
Well, last week was quite a show, wasn't it?
It was.
We really want to thank Kira for coming on. I hope that her sharing her story helped a lot of people and will continue to help a lot of people, going forward.
It did. I was especially excited by sharing it on other other social media platforms. How so many people were like, oh my gosh, that was really brave of you to do that. And I remember someone on her page asking permission to share it. And, I was like, of course you can share it. This is, kind of, why we're doing this. And I didn't realize that the person that I was speaking to was a, childhood friend of, she and Carl's. And I said, I'm not sure if you're aware of who I am, I'm Aiden's, Nana. And, the person, she responded back, she goes, I've met you a few times. Mind you, it was, back when Aiden was 4. But, again, just, touched and excited by how many people are, tuning in and listening to the message and, finding or seeing the purpose, for the reason for this. So, yeah, continue to share, guys.
Yeah, please. The more support that we get, the more we can help people. And speaking of which, if you want to help support this show and help us bring more guests on, please, you can donate to the foundation either via our webpage or we also partnered with Kindest, and there's many levels, opportunities for donating. You can just click on that QR code down there in the corner and it'll take you straight to the donation page. And we really appreciate the support. We certainly appreciate the support of our producer John and WeBeam TV for even allowing us to bring this information to you guys, and hopefully we can continue to help others.
Yeah, we could not do this without him.
Oh, heck no.
Another way, for those of you that are on social media, I, am not ashamed to admit I am a Facebook junkie. And with, as your birthday, comes up, you always have I'm doing a fundraiser for my birthday. And I decided, this year to also, fundraise for the foundation, in support of this show. So, yes, if you're on Facebook and you just happen to see that fundraiser, that's another way to reach the foundation, to give to, support this cause.
That's right. Well, and yeah, we, the foundation is a registered nonprofit on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go and do a fundraiser, you can choose the Bobby White Foundation as your charity of choice. And you can also do it on Amazon, too.
I was going to say,
yeah,
Amazon.
A lot of people are ordering things these days for the past year. And the Bobby White Foundation is also a certified or whatever charity on Amazon, and you really don't have to do anything except for choose the foundation as your charity of choice, and whenever you order something, a small percentage of your order is donated to the foundation, and both Amazon and Facebook, 100% of what you donate goes to the charities.
Yeah, when I think about with Amazon, how many of us, that's my other, passion is Amazon. How many of us are on Amazon? And that, like you said, it doesn't really cost you anything extra.
No, it's something you're automatically doing anyways. Yeah, it's crazy. I think I have withdrawals if I have a week that I don't get package delivered by Amazon or Chewy, So, anyways, so those are ways that you can really help support us, because it's really important, and I know that this can be very difficult for people to sit and watch through. It is, but it is so important that we all, not only us, but you guys helping us get the message out. It's a conversation that people have to get comfortable talking about.
It does. It brings me into mind, the topics sometimes that, we talk about in this line of work, those taboo subjects, ones that, we try to, stuff or internalize and not really talk about. It's important, however, to understand that stuffing, internalizing, not talking about different subjects does not make it go away.
No.
And as we've, said, multiple times, this is our 12th episode. It's hard to believe that. But what we have said the whole time that we've been doing this, is oftentimes you don't know that someone is in crisis until you talk to them. You don't know that somebody needs somebody to talk to until you talk to them. And oftentimes, I know in my own life, I have found that, when I was in, some of my darkest places, just somebody looking at you and saying, are you okay, was all I needed. I remember, sharing, the story when I just had one of my cancer diagnoses. And I was in line at the market, and the cashier, looked at me and said, are you okay? And I looked at her, like I couldn't read my face. But I looked at her and I just, took everything inside me to hold the tears in.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at her and I said, no, I'm not. Thank you for asking. And it wasn't thank you for asking in a sarcastic manner. It was, truly thank you for asking. And, I chose to share with her, what was going on. And from that day forward, anytime I came into, the market and she was working, and that was, how are you doing today? I've been praying for you. Those of us who believe in prayer, I've been praying for you. You've been on my mind. I miss her. She's not in the, she's not at the market anymore, because she shared with me. She was on a journey herself she was going to go into a convent to become a nun.
Oh, wow.
And, I told her managers, it's like, she's one not to get, not to let go of. But I understood, her calling. And, I do credit her as, one of, the many people who, that was a dark time. And,
yeah, it takes, healing doesn't happen individually. It does. It takes a community. I tell you, the last almost 5 years, in a couple months, I don't know where or how I would be if it wasn't for my friends and family. And the community that we live in is amazing, and meeting people like you. I mean, it's it's kind of sad in a way that it brings you to new friends who are experiencing something as traumatic as you're experiencing also. But those new friends understand even more what you deal with on a day-to-day basis and how you feel and the ups and downs and more bad days than good days. And I still have more bad days than good days. I would like to see the point that I get to where there's more good days than bad days, and it's reversed. I hope it's coming soon, but like we've talked about, you just never know what those steps are going to be and how they're going to work out. We have been reading this book, The Wilderness of Suicide, Grief, and Finding Your Way, and we've been talking about, and I feel this a lot. One of the touchstone points is recognizing you are not crazy.
Yes.
And you go through more of those days that it's just like, oh my gosh, am I really losing it here? One of the quotes here is, if you are sure you understand everything that is going on, you are hopelessly confused.
There's a lot of truth in that one.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of truth in
Isn't
that.
there? I mean, you kind of just kind of wonder, and there have been times too, sitting at home by myself, that it's like, man, am I going to make it past this? Am I going to really lose my mind? I had about a year after Bobby passed away, a good friend of mine who has been a great help and has given little nudges to me, and that the reason why I started the foundation and our fundraiser, Art for Hope. And when we first started planning for Art for Hope, he wanted to have this, big black tie affair and, big dinner thing. And I just looked at him and I was like, you know what? I said, we need to start smaller than that. I said, unless you guys want to lock me up in the loony bin before the event, there's no way I can handle that. So we need to build. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've been doing with the fundraiser and with the foundation. You have to. It's baby steps, and it's the same way with your emotions and your own well-being.
Absolutely. I find it, depending on who I talk to, there are some people who, understand, this is, it is baby steps to get from, here to here to here, or we process it at our own time. I've also encountered individuals who would look at me and say, get over it.
Oh, yeah.
It's, like you can't, it's done, it's over.
Right.
It's, as if, I like metaphors, I use, a lot of metaphors. As if we've just sat down to a meal and we've eaten the last thing off the plate and the plate is going into the dishwasher. It's like, all right, the meal is over. But what they don't realize, using that particular metaphor is, okay, I finished that meal. A time span, could be a minute, could be a couple of hours. Another plate's going to be sitting in front of me, and I've got to consume another meal. And so when people, tell me, oh, it's just, just get over it, it's okay. Or, after Patrick, I had a family member, that said, something to the effect, the funeral was over. It's time for you to move on. And, I thought to myself, it's easy for some people. You might have been able to do that. I can't. But I'm not a real fan of the word I cannot. Here's that. It's not a matter of not being able to. For me, it's more of an issue. I'm not ready.
Yeah, you have to be ready. I had a good friend. She didn't tell it to my face. She told it to my aunt, and my aunt told me. This happened, I don't know, a year or two ago. A couple of years ago, I guess. And she said to my aunt, it's been 3 years. She needs to get over it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, who are you to tell me that I have to get over the death of a man that I spent almost 30 years with? I'm sorry, you might, like you said, you might be able to do that. Mm-hmm. You might be able to process that in a shorter period of time, but I can't.
Right.
and I have to do it in my own time. And if that's not suitable for you, then you can go off to the side, because I have to do it. I'm the one that's living it.
And I find it, again, I don't want to say strange. So I sit back and think, the reason why I'm in the field that I'm in. So I love being analytical and, watching, or I don't want to say analyzing, people's behaviors or thoughts. And, how it is fascinating that people believe that if this is how I do it, that's how you're supposed to do it as well. And not realizing that this journey, and we're all going to be on this journey at one time or another, be it, how we ended up on, this journey, or, even losing somebody through natural causes. How we process that loss and grief is different. Looking at, this touchstones were, a couple of pieces, in this particular chapter that got me. One was the sudden changes of mood. Mm-hmm. And I find myself having those moments where I'm enjoying myself. And later on, having this, flush of guilt because I've enjoyed myself. This weekend I, went out with some friends.
Yeah.
And we went kayaking.
I saw that. That had to be cold.
No, actually it was very nice. The weather was wonderful. The water was, it's a spring, so regardless of what the temperature is outside, the water is always 71. But, so here I am, kayaking with friends, and I'm, just enjoying, the calmness of the water, and, floating down, looking for manatee, and, again, having a good time, with my neighbor, who's my best friend in the neighborhood, mind you. And after that, going out to eat. And it struck me, where we went to eat was one of the last, not the same place, mind you, or, same location, but the same business, as one of the last places I had dinner with Patrick. And, as I'm sitting there and I'm, eating in this one, one of the chain restaurants, I'm thinking to myself, if only you were here. If only you were here. And so, experiencing that, going from, being content. So I don't even know if I have I process, do I have the ability to say I'm happy anymore? Mm-hmm. Or I'm happy, but it's a different kind of happiness. But going from, content to suddenly feeling this guilt because I allowed myself to be content for a moment, and with that guilt comes are we in some ways putting the memory of that person up on a shelf? You don't matter anymore, or it's not important anymore, or it's not a focal point anymore. And then sitting back like, okay, back to this. I have an issue with using the term "I'm not crazy," because that's one of those stigmatizing the terms. You're crazy.
Yeah, it is, but
we use it a lot. It's and continuing. Again, processing. It's a process.
Well, and some people, if you talk about some things, like even one of the points in this chapter too are mystical experiences, and I have definitely had them, but sometimes when I talk to certain people about them, you can tell either by their tone of voice or if you're in the presence of them, their facial expressions, that they're looking at you like you are crazy, and you kind of step back and say, am I really crazy? Is this really happening? But I have had those experiences with Bobby, and I have, I do have to kind of self-talk, say, you're not crazy. You believed this before this happened, and it's a real, true experience. But and it, to me, when it has happened, it does bring comfort. It's not, oh, you're crazy thinking about, whatever the experiences that you had. Every time it has been something that has brought me comfort. And knowing that, he is okay. I may not be, but he is. But, and I too, when I have moments of joy, in doing something. Another thing that we did this weekend, and you were with me, we went to a vineyard. And on my way home, I found myself, I was talking to Bobby and saying, oh, hon, you would have had such a great time. This was so much fun. I know you were there, in some way, but yeah, it was fun. And then you go back to, you get home and it's like, but at least, and I don't think I have had that feeling of guilt of having a good time. The good times don't come very often, and they don't last very long, but when they do, it's like, oh, I want to feel that way again. It feels good, but it doesn't come as often as you want it to. I mean, it comes maybe more and more as time goes on a little bit, and it lasts maybe a little bit longer, but that was a good time.
Yeah, and it's also, I sit back when I think of, again, this range of emotions. Is it guilt? Or am I, confusing another emotion for guilt? I'm not supposed to be having a good time because, Patrick or Aiden is not here to experience that good time too. Or, I'm thinking, spring break is coming up. And,
Right.
How, I remember, in the past, the kids would say, Nana, it's spring break. Can we come up for spring break? Of course, it's like, absolutely, you can come up for spring break. Or, summer's coming around. Hey, Nana, summertime, can we come on spring break? One of the grandchildren, I love having the distinct pleasure that for the next, I'm going to say probably 12, 13 years, I will have a grandchild that graduates every year.
Oh, wow.
Well, there's 23 of them, so. But, the next one to graduate, she sent me a message the other day, I'm sending out, invitations for graduation. You are still coming to my graduation. Of course I'm coming to your graduation. It's in the Midwest, it's, one of, Aiden's half-siblings. But I find myself, thinking, not next year, but the following year would have been the year that Aiden graduates. And gearing up, what is that going to feel like? Especially, considering, Aiden would be graduating. My daughter's daughter, she and Aiden were born, a couple of months, from each other. But I'm going to see her graduate. I won't see him graduate. You know what I mean? And processing, again, these, emotions, it makes me also think of the memorabilia, and the, things that they've done, like, watching him, or hearing how well he's doing in school. And, of course, I'm thinking, you just might graduate as the valedictorian, or, you're going to graduate, top, the top percentage of your classes. Or you're going to college, and not experience, not being able to experience that. So of course, this is again, back to, looking at, these things that I remember when he did this, to also, again, process the emotions, like what is that going to look like when it comes time for his graduation? And I think of when graduations happen, when you lose somebody during that graduating class, they will always do here's a memorial for this person that would have been graduating with us. And I think, wait a minute now, since Aiden did not get to experience high school, when it gets to his graduating class, even though he's in that district, he won't get, or maybe he will, will he get that,
recognition,
being memorialized as and oh, by the way, if he were here, he would have graduated with us. As you heard Kira say, last week, there is a memorial at the school for him, and I thought the school was, I don't know who inspired, that project, but I think every time a student is lost, there's a memorial put. I think there's a memorial garden that's at the school. So he'll always be a part of the district, but it's just, do you guys, let them graduate in memory, I don't know.
I don't know. It's the memorabilia thing that you brought up. It's kind of funny because yesterday I'm still working on the foundation office, and I was going through some things in a closet. I had them back in the closet for forever, but I found these trophies of Bobby's that when we lived in Fort Lauderdale, he was on a dart league for a year. And I looked up on the shelf and I was like, you know what, I need, because I'm kind of decorating some of the foundation office with things that are him. I have a survey sign and I have a survey measuring rod thing, and because he was a land surveyor. And so I thought, oh, those would look good up on that shelf in the front office. And so I took them down, and they have his name on them, and it has 1989, whatever award it was for the Dart League that year. So I brought those out and put them on the shelf in the foundation office yesterday, and I was like, oh, now I remember those times, And it was kind of odd in a way, but kind of happy in a way. It's like it brought me back to a time when it was before his MS diagnosis. It said it was 1989. I was like, oh man, how many years ago was that? But now they're nicely displayed in the foundation office with other memorabilia that I come across of. That reminds me of him or our, something that we did.
Or I find there are times that I will, I'll be at, again, either at the market or, shopping somewhere, even walking around my house, and I will go from one room to the next or, one, aisle in the store to the next, and I suddenly catch a whiff of the cologne that Patrick wore.
Oh, yeah.
And I, find myself sometimes looking up, kind of looking around like, who's wearing that? And there have been a couple times where I would catch the scent, especially at home sometimes, and there's nobody in the house that wears that scent. And I'm going back like, okay, Bonnie, you're not losing your mind.
There goes the crazy part.
Like, where is that? Where is that coming from? Or another piece that it, talks about having these time lapses where, I'll be in the midst of doing something and I'll look up and I will swear that I see him looking around the corner at me, like, hey, yeah, it's our thing, my bedroom, sits here and you can see the kitchen, from my bedroom. There are times that I look around the corner, I'll hear something, in the kitchen. And are you, what are you doing? What are you after? Kind of thing.
That's those mystical experiences.
It is, and, again, I think, so, I find that some people will say, you're just going crazy, that's just wishful thinking, that's just, and ascribe something, in an attempt to normalize, what's going on.
Right.
Your house is settling. You don't really see this. It's, sure, the floaters in your eyes. And I'm like, okay.
If that's the way you want to explain it, but
that's fine. Let me have my moment.
Right, yeah.
I'm going to have my moment.
yeah, that happens to me, especially if I'm in the foundation office. It's in the front living room of my home, and Bobby always took care of the outside, and I can't tell you how many times, just like out of the corner of my eye, I think I see somebody walking by the front door or the window or a tree, and I have gotten up to go look. It's like, okay, there's nobody there. There's really nobody there. But yeah, I mean, it happens. And like with you smelling the cologne, I mean, a lot of people have said, that have experienced the death of a loved one, that nobody's around, and then all of a sudden, and people do believe, and I do believe that, that's their spirit. That's letting you know that they're there with you.
And they're okay. The other thing, as I said, I'm a Facebook junkie. Those things that pop up on your timeline. And there was a, 1 minute, like a minute and 10-second clip that Patrick had done, because I shared, he loved these robes, the terry cloth,
Right.
really, and, almost every other day, it seems, that particular clip pops up, in my timeline. It's basically like, I'm supposed to be watching this right now. And, again, I know I shared this before where, he's, basically saying, first he's talking about his beard, it's like, this beard is right, in his terminology. I still need a haircut, but, the beard is right. And he has, he stops and he says, basically, I just wanted to show you guys. I wasn't joking when I said it was about, as he calls it, I was about this robe life, and he, pulls the side of the robe, see? And he's like, I'm really about this life. I sit back and I think, wow, you're so correct. He had, I think, a robe for every day of the week. His intention was to, I think his goal was he wanted to have a robe for every day of the month, so he did not have to wear the same robe twice in a month. And, I remember putting his car in the shop one day, and we go to the mechanic shop, and he's wearing his bathrobe, and just
The mechanic shop.
he wore this bathrobe like most people would wear a jacket, or a sweater. And he walked in, and, my mechanic, he looked around and was like, no, he's wearing a robe. He said he wears that robe like, it's a smoking jacket. And all he needs is the pipe and, the glass of brandy, And, my mechanic was just tickled by him. Because he had his wit and sense of humor was, off the chart. And, as I remember, fast forward, going into the mechanic shop for something, and, he'd asked, how was Patrick? And I, did tell him, unfortunately he had passed. But at the same time, I think, about, he was cremated in one of his robes. Hearing back in, it was part of that guilt, like, oh my gosh, I don't have the robe anymore. The robe is with him. But then, he's up on the
He's-
shelf wearing. He's up
he's
on the
got-
shelf.
he has his robe,
He's up on the
though.
shelf wearing his robe.
Yeah,
He's doing
exactly.
really good.
Yeah, it's I like the last paragraph of this chapter. It's, you're not crazy, you're grieving and mourning. Never forget that your journey through the wilderness of your grief may bring you through all kinds of strange and unfamiliar terrain. When it seems like you're going crazy, remind yourself to look for the trail marker that assures you you're not going crazy. You're grieving and you're mourning.
Yes. Yes. And with that, whole concept of, are we going crazy? This is again where we talk about, smelling, cologne that, in my case, Patrick, or, Bobby wore, and looking around, not seeing anybody, or, not realizing, well, somebody's wearing that same cologne, who is it? Surely it has to be, there has to be somebody in the vicinity, not just, it's not this phantom smell coming out of the air.
Or is it? Yeah.
Or when we see the shadows, we're like, oh, is it just, I'm kind of horrible eyesight. Those floaters. All right, was it a floater? Wait a minute, floaters are not that big.
You were more familiar with floaters. I have them too, and they're
Yes.
not. They're
What's
not.
that?
They're not the same.
Yeah, it's not floater. I'm sorry, floater's not that big. There are times where I hear, a sound or a song that reminds me, of, whether it's Patrick or Aiden, looking through picture books. This weekend, my grandson, the 17-year-old, 17? He'll be 17 in April. 17-year-old grandson, lives at home right now. And one of the hardest things for me is the fact that he sleeps in Patrick's room. I have a nephew, adult nephew, who was in the other bedroom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody sees Patrick's room. I still refer to it as so every once in a while I look at my nephew, my grandson, are you in your room? And then in my head, it's like, that's Patrick's room.
Right.
But anyway, we're doing laundry this weekend. And I'm taking his laundry out of the dryer, and there were a pair of socks. And it were socks that I had given Patrick, the Christmas before he passed away. These are Patrick's socks. And I looked, I told him, I said, those white socks you have, with, that design on them. I said, those are for Uncle Pat's. And he, Devin, Patrick's son, Devin was wearing them, and, I, just took them from Devin, or, I started wearing them. They're Patrick's socks.
Yeah.
And again, people would look and it's like, you're being silly, or, this is craziness that,
Yeah, but they're your feelings.
True, which, I'm blessed that, my family, I would say my family, majority of my friends recognize, you feel however you want to feel. Because they know that mental health side of me would come out.
Right.
It's like, these are my feelings. I can have whatever feelings I want. We've talked about this before. Like, how I tell you guys, just go with your feelings. Yet at the same time, I do find myself, at what point is it okay to, I still can't let go of his stuff. I, cannot let go of his stuff. The top of his, the dresser is like he, new bedroom set, mind you. However, I set up the top of the dresser with his stuff as he had it on the dresser when he was there. And I think no one would knows that, it's only somebody who, is a family member would be like, isn't that Patrick's stuff? Yes. But it's not craziness, guys. It's how we process. It's keeping the memory alive.
Right. Well, we have an old Dodge pickup truck, and it was I had a van for a long time with my business, and we bought this truck. It was a year old when we bought it. In 90s, I think we bought it in 97. It's a black Dodge pickup, and it's Bobby's truck. And, we've had it 20-some years. And was it last year, maybe the year before last, it never had a paint job. It ran really good, but it was always Bobby's truck.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody referred to it as Bobby's truck. And I'd taken it down, and I got a brand new paint job on it, and I even myself replaced all the headlights and the running lights on it, and we have actually the foundation license plate. I put that on the front of it, but even still 5 years later, it's Bobby's truck. I drive it, but it's Bobby's truck. And I did have some people on Facebook, when I posted a picture of it, when I first redid it, somebody say, it's Tammy's truck. And I was like, well, kind of, but I can't even get past that. It's Bobby's truck. And I don't, even if I got a new truck,
Mm-hmm.
I would still keep Bobby's truck.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Oh,
that's just it. And when I first got it painted, I went somewhere, and I have a friend of mine who had a store, and I parked in front of her store, and she's like, Tammy, did you get a new truck? And I'm like, no, I painted Bobby's truck. She said, it looks like a brand new truck. I'm like, no, it's the same old truck, 1997 Dodge Ram pickup.
Yeah, I find it more, and maybe this is, a bit of rationalization, I might say. I find it a bit cathartic, comforting, to hold on to things, even those things that seem like, why are you doing this? My back patio set. And I had some friends come over, friends who are smokers. And, you don't smoke at my house. I'm not a smoker. So, nobody ever smokes in the house. When I was married, my ex-husband, he was a smoker, never smoked in the house. It was like, everybody smokes outside, for, various reasons. Anyway, we're all sitting outside, and, my friends were like, is it okay if we smoke? I was like, yeah, Patrick was a smoker. It's like, Patrick smoked out here. It was weird, and again, I sat back and I'm, processing this, like, you're not crazy, this is part of your process. But there's an ashtray that has the last cigarette butts that Patrick smoked. And I'm looking at my friends almost in a bit of a panic, like, yes, you can smoke this. Don't empty the ashtray. Just don't empty the ashtray. And, they're like, what? No. It's like, that's Patrick's ashtray. Don't empty the ashtray. And they were like, it's okay. It's okay. Or stuff that he had, it's the table has, it's the table itself, and it's got a little, like, I don't call it an undershelf, whatever you call it. The stuff that's under there, I've never touched. This was, I always looked at the patio as Patrick's, that was Patrick's domain. But each, to the point of this paragraph where it says you're not crazy, you're grieving and you're mourning. I put, when I go through these, like, you're being like that rational, analytical side of us, like, you're being silly here. No. You're going through your grieving process. You're going through your mourning, your mourning process, and just let it happen and be okay with it. And
yeah, you have to be, and everybody's going to do it differently. The only thing that I think that I got rid of Bobby's is we donated his clothes, but I kept all his T-shirts. Mm-hmm. That he liked. He wore T-shirts all the time, and a couple of his shirts we had, and I almost wore it today, and I wore this shirt for a different reason, which we'll talk about later. But we had matching shirts. They were kind of like Cowboys themed. They're black and red, and mine was sleeveless. It was just long sleeves. And we wore those shirts to a Waylon Jennings concert down at Ruth Eckert Hall many years ago. And we had bought Waylon Jennings' book, and so we were able to go backstage after the concert, and he signed the book. And I remember Bobby and I are standing there, and Waylon Jennings says to us, "Oh, I love those shirts." And so that was one of the shirts that I was like, okay, we can't get rid of that. That's still hanging in the closet. And then we have these that are like a palmetto print that he really liked, and I kept that. But eventually I'm going to have his make a quilt out of his T-shirts. I could do it myself technically, but emotionally I don't think I can. So I'm going to have somebody else. My aunt wants me to send all the T-shirts out to her so that she can make the quilt for me.
I thought about doing that. For me it would be difficult, which ones do I pick? For one. Kira had several of Aiden's T-shirts, sent it to a friend who did that, who did the same thing with making the quilt. She says the quilt, she finds it comforting because it feels to her, when she's wrapped in the quilt, she uses it much, that it feels like Aiden is hugging her. The other part of it is, she says some of the T-shirts, even though they've been laundered, still smell like him. She talked about how the clothing that he was in, when he died, they gave those clothes back to her, and she said I can't wash those. She says they still have that, and she described it to me. She says they still have that sweaty little boy smell to them, and she's like, cannot bring myself to. And I get it. I was furious. With Patrick's clothing, they destroyed them. I didn't tell me beforehand. We have to destroy them. This is why. I understand the reason why, but I was still like, you could have called me for. There's a lot of things about Patrick's death that, doing the autopsy without telling, not waiting for me to come home, doing the autopsy.
Right.
But, you're right. It's like, what do I pick?
Well, for me, I would probably I'll end up with multiple quilts. Not just one. There'll be more. However many it'll take to.
That's Patrick. A billion. I wear his. I decided when it's an off day, I wear T-shirts. And so,
yeah, there's a couple shirts of Bobby's that I'll wear. He had this old flannel one that he ripped the sleeves off of, and to do yard work in or something, and I'll put that on to go out and do the yard work. It is. I mean, to me, to some people it may sound weird. To us, it's comforting. And that's what you gotta do.
As it says, you're grieving and you're mourning.
Yeah, and just remember that. I mean, you're not going crazy. If you want to think you're going crazy, that's really not even still such a bad thing. I don't think. That gives you a good excuse.
It's my crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's if we could, let's talk a little bit about the pink shirt.
My shirt, yes. I wanted to save some time at the end of our show today. It's a bit off topic, but it's something that's important to us. I'm wearing the breast cancer survivors T-shirt. We have a dear friend, Maria Johnson. I spoke with her last night, and she said it was okay that we talk today. And she has been diagnosed with breast cancer, and she is having surgery. And she's
tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a long process. She has surgery, and then she's going to have several weeks or months of radiation, and on top of that, she has to do hormone therapy for 5 years. We just want to really show our love and our support for her. She's one of these women that, like I said before, we live in an awesome community, but she's also one of those women that is always a giver to everybody else, and always a supporter to everybody else. She has been at times a great sounding board for me, at times going through rough patches. Actually, the first time I ever spoke publicly about Bobby's death was at one of the WPBA meetings that she runs. And I chose that because of, partly because of her and the support. She actually, her and another dear friend, Jerry, got up and they just kind of like stood beside me and held me as I shared my story to the group. And so now it's time for us to support her.
Absolutely. Maria is, as Tammy said, one of those souls that you want in your life. Same thing. I remember when I first met her, I was just, touched by, her personality. Such a bubbly personality. Even, with what she's going through, with her cancer journey. She's upbeat about it, but at the same time, I haven't, gone through it, myself, a couple of times. I get it. But yeah, we are asking if you guys, would be so inclined to, send a prayer for her, for her surgeons, guide their hands in this, and for her speedy recovery. Maria's a hugger, and she just handles awesome hugs.
Yeah. This past year has been so difficult for so many people, and she is a hugger, and she really needs our hugs right now, and we can't give them to her. We can give them to her virtually.
Exactly.
And if you can pray, please, pray for the surgeons, pray for our dear friend and her family, and I was fortunate last night. We did a Zoom with a bunch of gals, and her parents were on there. And
nice.
her parents aren't able to be here with her either, and that's extremely difficult for her. She is so close to her parents, and I met them last night on the Zoom call, and they are just hilarious. And when you see her parents, you know why Maria is Maria. I mean, it was really neat. And so our community is here to support her. We want this to reach far and wide for her. I know what it's like, and you know what it's like when you're going through something really rough, to have the love and support of your friends and your community, and it goes past, even people that you know. And want to send prayers and thank yous to all of those who have gone through this themselves, who have survived, and those we have lost. My mother-in-law had breast cancer back in the 60s. And we were fortunate enough to have her until she was 88 years old.
Yeah.
So it is survivable if it's caught early, and that's one thing that she is really has talked about a lot, that her breast cancer was caught early because of a mammogram, and she really kind of insists on that. I kind of did the same thing. Bobby had colon cancer in 2008, 2007, and that's one thing that I really pushed for too, is get that colonoscopy. We were fortunate that his was caught early. He had to have surgery, but we were fortunate he didn't have to have any radiation. And so we told people, you need to do this. And unfortunately, we had a friend who at the age of 50 passed away just several months after Bobby because of colon cancer.
But yeah, I agree with you. I think it was very important for us, to give this special shout out, to Maria, and let her know that, we are, thinking about her, and we love her, and, you know, we are praying for, you know, a speedy recovery for her. Can't wait for her to be, you know, back in the saddle, back in charge of things, you know, although, you know, the person taking, you know, who's taking her place, you know, who's going to sub for her, you know, would love her too. You know, and I know, you know, she will do it justice. But yeah, Maria, we love you.
Yeah, we love you. We want you to have time to heal. We just want you to know that we're all here for you, just as you've been for us.
Absolutely.
And so we really, again, want to thank WeBeam TV. And, you know, if any of you out there are suffering or you know somebody, and if it's something that's imminent, please call 911. We have several phone lines for you to call, specifically for veterans and teenagers. Just, you know, like we were saying, you know, with Maria, and even, you know, with our topic here, you're not alone. You're not alone. We don't heal individually. We heal in community, and, you know, we really want to emphasize that. It's been community that has got us to where we're at today, and our friends, and so just, you know, remember that there is always hope, right?
There is always hope. Thank you.
Thank you.